Hello and welcome. I'm Thomas Porteous and you're watching NewsX World. Let's look at the top stories this hour. The Metropolitan Police estimate over 110,000 people joined Tommy Robinson's Unite the Kingdom demonstrations today. Authorities say the crowd size was calculated using CCTV and helicopter footage during the central London event. Authorities say 2 drones targeted the Ban Neft site in the Bashkortostan region, with one hitting the facility and igniting a fire that caused limited damage. The governor reported no casualties as emergency crews contained the blaze in Ufa, over 1,400 kilometers from Ukraine. President Donald Trump tells alliance members to halt energy imports from Moscow and back major sanctions to force an end to the war in Ukraine. He also calls for NATO to consider group tariffs of 50 to 100% on China to limit its economic support for Russia. Medical staff say airstrikes left dozens dead, including children, as Israel targets high-rises it says are being used by Hamas and orders residents to evacuate. Health authorities report a family of 10 and footballer Mohammed Remez Sultan among the dead, while hundreds of thousands remain in the city amid shortages. In her first public remarks, Charlie Kirk's wife says she will never let his legacy die, calling her grief a battle cry to the world. Suspect Tyler Robinson remains in custody after a 33-hour manhunt, facing charges including aggravated murder and felony firearm discharge. Beijing condemns a joint sailing by HMS Richmond and USS Higgins as a provocation, saying it undermines peace and stability in the region. London and Washington call the transit a routine operation, insisting it complies with international law and freedom of navigation. US envoys Adam Bola and Zalmay Khalilzad meet Taliban Foreign Minister Amir Khan Muttaqi in Kabul to discuss citizens held in each other's countries. The Taliban says both sides agreed to continue dialogue on bilateral issues, including the status of detainees. The IDF says a drone strike in Aratun targeted a Hezbollah member accused of rebuilding infrastructure in violation of a ceasefire deal. The strike comes amid ongoing cross-border tensions as Israel continues operations against Hezbollah networks in southern Lebanon. Now we start this hour in Europe's defining crisis, where a Russian oil refinery in Bashkortostan was hit by a drone attack, according to the regional governor Radi Kabirov. The regional governor has also said that a fire broke out on the spot, but is being extinguished with minimal damage reported to the production site. Kabirov also has said that a second drone was also shot down. This comes after Ukrainian emergency services released videos showing the aftermath of Russian drone attacks in the southern Mykolaiv region. According to the emergency services, the strikes started fires in 2 private houses and outbuildings before being extinguished by firefighters. Moreover, Ukrainian media has reported that Russia launched 164 drones and a ballistic missile overnight as top EU officials gathered in Kiev for the annual Yalta European Strategy Conference. We are covering the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. As you've just heard, many aerial strikes hitting each side, with Russia sending over 160 drones into Ukraine overnight. This comes as diplomatic efforts continue to end the war, which is coming into its 4th year. President Donald Trump has also said that and asked NATO countries to stop buying Russian oil completely and to even tariff China from 50 to 100%. In order to stop funding, quote-unquote, Putin's war machine. Hopefully we are joined by our guest who will discuss this further with us. Europe's defining crisis enters its fourth year. We are now joined by Keith Vaz, who is a former UK minister, and he joins us live from London. Keith, thank you very much. Always a pleasure for you to join us. Keith, we have just reported on escalating aerial strikes between sides, over 160 drones that have passed over the Ukrainian border. However, I want to talk about the progression diplomatically. Donald Trump today has called for NATO countries to tariff China 50 to 100% and also to completely stop buying Russian oil. What are your thoughts on Donald Trump's statements today and his calls for NATO and EU countries to do this?
A good afternoon from London. This is just not going to happen. People cannot change contractual arrangements that have been made between themselves and other sovereign countries just because Donald Trump doesn't want it to happen. So he can call for what he likes. He obviously wants India to stop buying oil from Russia. There is no prospect of that happening. India has a contract with Russia that predates the war in Ukraine, and you can't suddenly just tear up these contracts because India is not a party to the proceedings between Russia and Ukraine. And similarly, that applies to the rest of the European Union. He wants to do this because he wants more countries to buy American oil, which is more expensive. This is just not going to happen. People are not going to put their economies at risk and try and save money in this way in order to do what the President of the United States asks them to do. This is, as I've said before, very dangerous territory when trade laws and trade decisions are being taken on a daily basis without any empirical evidence. It becomes very, very complicated. So he's made his plea. It's not going to happen. People are just going to carry on and do what they do.
Keith, earlier, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky told leaders at the annual Yalta European Strategy Conference that Russia's eastern offensive has failed. What are your thoughts on how the battlefield is developing? Obviously, Russia claims about 4 regions of Ukraine, including Crimea, which it annexed in 2014. But what are your thoughts on the dialogue that is surrounding this war currently?
Well, when war breaks out, truth is the first casualty. It does seem very odd, and it seems in contrast to what President Trump has just said. Volodymyr Zelensky has said that they're winning the war, but Trump is saying you should stop buying oil. So it's difficult to know who is telling the truth in the sense that who is actually giving us an accurate account of what is going off. Everyone wants a ceasefire, everyone. They want it all to stop. And that's what we thought we were getting in Alaska. What was the point of all that?
Yeah.
Bringing President Putin over to Alaska, all that drama, if at the end of the day, nothing was going to change. So I think this is a lot of frustration on the part of the American president. I think he's a peacemaker, actually. I don't think he's a warmonger. I think he wants peace, and he wants to make sure that his country does better out of that peace. It's not going to happen because other countries are simply not going to go along with it.
Keith Vaz, please stay with us as we have further updates from Europe. Protests are underway in central London, organised by controversial far-right figure Tommy Robinson under the title Unite the Kingdom. The police have confirmed that 110,000 people have attended the rally in the English capital. Marchers waved Union Jacks, St George's crosses and even US and Israeli flags, many wearing MAGA hats and chanting against Prime Minister Keir Starmer. The demonstration, called Unite the Kingdom, was billed a free speech rally and also a tribute to Conservative Charlie Kirk, who was recently shot dead in Utah. A counter-protest organised by Stand Up to Racism also gathered nearby. London police deployed over 1,600 officers to manage tensions across the city. Let's have a look at what some of the protesters are saying.
It's giving us back our freedom, our right to fly our flags, because we're being told as British people that we're not allowed to fly our flags anymore. Those that have painted the St George's Cross on the roundabouts, they've been taken off, our flags have been taken down, and we're just basically protesting to say, this is our country, and we want it back, we want to be able to have our say.
To be proud and British and show the general public.
We are once again joined by Keith Vaz to discuss the situation which is currently unfolding in central London. Keith, 110,000 people today turned up to Tommy Robinson's protest. What does that say about the mood in Britain right now?
Well, that people are angry, that they find that the best way to express themselves is not through the ballot box, but through marches. We've got an impressive marching history. There's nothing unusual about getting 100,000 people to a march in London. After all, Wembley Stadium, which is our biggest football stadium, takes 100,000 people. And when there is a big match on, 100,000 people will go there. So it's not a kind of massive number. It is, however, a very large gathering of people for a particular cause. I think they were hoping for more. We don't know what the estimates of the other march was, but I would imagine it's much, much less. I think that they're angry. People are angry. I'm not quite sure who they want to claim the country back from, who they think is running the country, except a democratically elected government. It was only elected last July 2024. So who are they actually against? Also, this notion of free speech. Who is trying to deny free speech? This is another question that I think needs to be asked. So I think what is unusual about this is that an individual, Mr. Robinson, has called this march together and 100,000 people have turned up. That's quite a lot of people, given the fact that he is not the leader of a party. He is an individual, and therefore it's quite a lot of people heeding this particular call. People are definitely very, very angry. And the question is, how can the government of the United Kingdom address this issue? Because they're not going to get any support from the opposition, because the opposition exists to try and bring down the government, and the government exists in order to destroy the opposition. So that's not going to happen in Westminster. So people probably feel the best thing is to go out into the streets. This is a big, big wake-up call to the government. And even though the numbers are probably an underestimate, because the police always underestimate numbers in crowds. They don't stand there with clickers. They just estimate how many people. It's probably more than this. But still, it is not something that we should ignore. We should certainly take it very seriously, and people should listen carefully to what people are saying.
Yes, and Keith, and what about the? We can see by footage now. There's American flags. There's also Israeli flags being flown, and of course placards in regards to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. What does that say about this transatlantic right-wing movement that seems to have emerged?
Well, it's not just transatlantic, of course. You've also got the situation in Hungary. It's called populism. These are populist leaders who are saying, we are the forgotten people of our country, and we need to stand up, and we need to make sure that our voices are heard. So populism can be of the left and of the right. What we're seeing in France, for example, is the centre collapsing under Macron, and the left and the right both working together to bring it down. And that's partly because Macron didn't do his homework and didn't go out and try and court the left, who he would prefer to court rather than the right. So I think what would be really good at this particular moment in time is to actually have a scoreboard to decide what exactly everybody wants. What does the right want? What does the centre stand for? What does the left stand for? In the old days, you had a very strong centre. It was called the Third Way. It was initiated by Bill Clinton and Tony Blair, and leaders who were neither left nor right, but in the center. The center seems to have disappeared. Nobody knows who represents the center. And therefore, this is left very much to the decision-making of the streets. Where I worry is if populism goes from being elected, which it is in America, democratically election, you have Donald Trump there, Viktor Orban being elected in Hungary, you have Maria Le Pen waiting to take power in France, Bolsonaro has just been sent to prison for what he's done. So when that translates and goes beyond the ballot box, that's when you feel rather worried. But of course, they're in power in America, so I'm not quite sure why they feel that that populism isn't acceptable to them. Because if this is populism, you know, changing your mind every single day as to what your policy is, it doesn't lead to stability. You do need to have some core values if you're going to be there. But this is democracy. Demonstrations of this kind happen. They're good for democracy. Much better that people take to the streets, express their views, leaders listen, rather than anything else. One of the great things about our country is that there is free speech. So this notion that there is no free speech is nonsense. Of course there's free speech.
Yes.
People are allowed to say whatever they want.
Keith Vaz, thank you so much for joining us. Absolute pleasure to have you on the programme on that story. We now move on and over to West Asia, where Lebanese authorities have stepped up efforts to disarm Palestinian factions in refugee camps across the country. Recently, the Lebanese army received 5 truckloads of weapons from Ain al-Helway camp, Lebanon's largest Palestinian camp near Sidon, and 3 trucks from Bedawi camp near Tripoli. These deliveries included a range of firearms, shells and ammunition. This operation follows an agreement between Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and Lebanese President Joseph Aoun to hand over weapons to the Lebanese state. However, Hamas and Islamic Jihad, 2 major Palestinian groups in Lebanon, have not committed to disarmament. Lebanon hosts around 222,000 Palestinian refugees, many living in overcrowded camps outside government control. Traditionally, the Lebanese army has stayed out of these camps, leaving security to Palestinian factions. The government's disarmament plan is part of a broader effort to extend state sovereignty across all Lebanese territory, including borders areas near Israel. This move has faced opposition from Hezbollah, Lebanon's powerful political and military force, which opposes disarmament. Lebanon's foreign minister recently announced a phased plan to monopolize weapons, starting with border areas, aiming to stabilize the country and reduce armed conflict risks. This is what the chairman of the official Lebanese Palestinian Dialogue Committee had to say.
اليوم في حسب علمي في 3 شاحنات رح يتسلموا من الفصائل المنضوية تحت منظمة التحرير. اليوم في حسب علمي في 3 شاحنات رح يتسلموا من الفصائل المنضوية تحت منظمة التحرير. هيدي بداية ونعرف انه في سلاح بعد موجود بالمخيمات ورح يتسلم تباعا. رح يتسلم بالوقت الحاضر مركزين على السلاح الثقيل يلي بيسبب وبيمثل خطر على المخيم وعلى أهل المخيمات.
We're now joined by Ali Mohammed Abushbak. He is an independent Palestinian researcher and he joins us live from Cairo in Egypt. Thank you very much, Ali, for joining us and speaking to us about this. The Lebanese government, they seem to have stepped up their efforts to disarm these Palestinian factions in refugee camps across the country. How likely do you think the Lebanese authorities are going to be successful in their objective here?
Thank you, Thomas, for having me. In fact, this is a port base for counting and for collecting the Palestinians, Palestinian workers from the Palestinians from Lebanon So the things is Palestinians function. They are showing their flexibility with the Lebanon's government to for the peace and for stable in this area and for making a balance with the power, especially after the Hezbollah rejected to disarm and to lie down its weapon in Lebanon. And worth mentioning that in Lebanon there is a more than 500,000 Palestinian refugees. They are living in the camp in Syria, in Lebanon. There are more than 5 or 6 camps for refugee Palestinian, and I guess this weapon it's used not only for for the resistance in Israel and as also the weapon as using for the function. By Palestinian function, it's just only for several of a function like Fatah and Hamas and the Islamic Jihad in that area. So I guess this is a good step from the Palestinian refugee who lie down their weapon and they are supporting the decision of the Lebanon's government. It will succeed, no doubt, because of the Palestinian willingness to be in good position in Lebanon after this situation and after the war between Hezbollah and Israel. So most of the Palestinian function, they are more careful and more interest about the safety of Lebanese community and the stable in this area and this region.
Yes, Ali, do stay with us. We have further updates from West Asia. Climate activist Greta Thunberg has criticised Israeli attacks on Gaza City while aboard the global summit flotilla that is preparing to deliver aid to Gaza. The GSF is set to sail from Tunisia and aims to break Israel's naval blockade following 2 nights of drone attacks on key vessels in the convoy earlier this week, in which organisers describe as deliberate attempts by Israel to disrupt the mission. Tunisian authorities have acknowledged the attacks but said no drones were detected, promising an investigation. Furthermore, Thunberg has condemned the attacks on Gaza City, noting that Israel has, quote, genocidal intent, end quote, in the Gaza Strip. Let's take a listen into her statements.
What is happening now, for example, in Gaza City should not come as a surprise, because Israel have been very clear from the beginning that this is their intent. They have genocidal intent, that they want to take over the Gaza Strip, which is such a serious war crime. The world has not listened. Right now, people are more and more waking up, but at what cost? What is happening is, of course, an attack on Palestinians, the Palestinian identity, and the Palestinian nation, and all the countless of people whose suffering is being reduced to numbers and UN resolutions. This is also an attack on humanity, on international law, on every sense of humanity we have left, and that is a huge, huge risk. Of course, risk is not the right word. It is a threat to everything we hold dear. What we are claiming to do is to act in line with international law. We are hearing the calls from Palestinians who are urging the people of the world to step up, to end our complicity. And we are doing a very small part of that, the bare minimum, to act, to uphold international law, human rights.
According to reports, at least 40 Palestinians were killed today. Most of them were in Gaza City, and this comes from the local health authority reports. Meanwhile, Israel has ramped up its offensive on Gaza City since late last month, saying it is aiming to free remaining hostages held by Hamas. We are once again joined by Ali Mohammed Abushbak. Ali, thank you very much for joining us. Israel says it's intensified its offensive in Gaza City in order to destroy Hamas's remaining strongholds, and is also, of course, aimed at freeing the remaining hostages in Hamas captivity. How do you perceive these objectives along with the actions of the Israeli military currently as it stands today?
Thomas, I don't know what should I say. I'm speechless. But let Israel say whatever it say. I mean, on the ground, the situation it's completely different. I mean, Israel just only yesterday at night completely destroy around 8 residential units in a Shati refugee camp, and the artillery shield. It was shelling and bombarding one area, a Sheikh Radwan neighborhood, and the quadcopter. There is the air drone, Israeli air drone, firing the civilians. I was talking to several of people at that area, and they confirmed, show me by my own eyes on WhatsApp, and how that the quadcopter shooting deliberately the civilians, and any movable target. It's under the Israeli attack. So Israel
Apologies there.
I'm waiting for them to talk to me though.
For its benefit and for intelligent collection, but there is no evidence that same things happened with everything. Like when Israel said several of United Nations employee in Gaza, they are Hamas affiliated, but there is no evidence about this. So I guess we're fed up with this lie, with this fake news, and with this a fake justification without any evidence. We are in the 21st century, everything with evidence, visual evidence nowadays. If you will say to someone hi, you should show him the evidence. You have some emotion to him. But Israel continues, make fun of the international community and lying. And I don't know who's still believing in Israel and the captive. The family of the captive, they are understood that Benjamin Netanyahu doesn't care about their captive in Gaza, and they said this Benjamin Netanyahu, he signed on our children, our beloved, our loved one executing in Gaza. So all of this on the ground has meaningless, and Israel continuous bombarding. They said Al-Mawasi Khan Yunis is a humanitarian zone and humanitarian area in Al-Mawasi Khan Yunis. There is since yesterday up to date 5 targeting in that area. There is a 5 bombardment in that area. So the situation is completely different, and you can't imagine people are displaced from Gaza City.
Ali, I do apologise, I have to interrupt you. Do stay with us. We have further updates from the Gaza Strip, where displaced Palestinians continue to head towards the south of the Gaza Strip, leaving behind their homes in Gaza City, as Israel has begun ramping up their attack on the urban centre late last month. The Israeli military has said that all civilians should leave Gaza City and go to Al-Mawasi, a sprawling tent camp among the beaches and farmland in the south that Israel has designed as designated, a humanitarian zone. Conditions in the overcrowded coastal encampments for displaced Palestinians are desperate, that some people are returning to Gaza City despite the falling bombs. According to Palestinian officials, the campaign is designed to empty Gaza City. Let's take a listen in to what some of the displaced residents had to say.
نحن نعيش العيشه هذه، هم عايشين في كرامه، واحنا ليش هيك؟ فيش لنا دواء، فيش لنا اكل، فيش لنا مسكن، ليش حريتنا كلها منهوبه؟ وحسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. وش بدي اقول اكثر من هيك؟ هي مبين علينا الاشي، هي بطعم ابني خبز حاف، هي بطعمهم خبز حاف، هي بشرب في العلبه. ايش بدي اقول اكثر من هيك؟ حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. لا اله الا انت، ارمي حملي عليك يا رب، مالي غيرك احد يا رب. يا عمي فيش مكان امن، غزه عامه الكل، خدها من رفح لا زكي، منطقه زكي ما بسموها، فيش منطقه امنه. كله كلام فاضل، بقول لك منطقه امنه، كله خبط، كله خبط قذايف، خبط في الطيران، ايش بدنا نساوي؟ وين نروح؟ ولا واحد مطلع لنا، حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل، اكثر من هيك بنقول. هاينا جايين مشي، معنا شجرات بطل 3000 شيكل، وطول لنا القصف، وين حتى في الشماكن حتى نروح عليها اصلا. من وين نجيب؟ هاينا جاي الطفل، ما كانت نشرب مي مش لاقيين نشربها. مي مش لاقيين نشربها. زي ما انت شايف، ايش بدك؟
Well, that is all that we have time for, but we will continue to bring you more news updates from around the world.